Welcome back to the Intrinsically Ordered podcast. Today I'm joined by the one and only Elijah Lamb. How do you describe your one-liner of what you're up to these days? Preacher, pastor, not pastor?
Not pastor, not yet.
Preacher, biblical, studier?
Yeah, I'm an itinerant preacher.
Itinerant.
And Bible nerd.
Nice.
Bible nerd.
So today's episode, we just got done with a much longer debate on pretty much every topic under the sun, kind of in the apologetics world. The thing that I want to talk about today is on kind of this rise of Gen Z Catholicism. I grew up not super Catholic. I became super Catholic and was part of kind of this Gen Z apologetic bro, Latin mass going, doing all this stuff, dunking on the Protestants. And kind of the Catholic Church is still trying to catch up to this younger movement. Mm-hmm. And online, Catholics have this idea it's just a few years and we'll have every Protestant kind of in our pocketbook. So that's kind of my own background and since deconstructing. What have you seen about Catholics online in your own interaction? I can't imagine you take the same assessment of 3 years and we'll have everybody Catholic.
Oh, no, of course not. That's a great question. I think that, my initial thought is that it feels like everybody is talking about it to the people who are in the conversation. Mm-hmm. It's who are in the denominational conversation. It feels like all anybody wants to talk about is what is the true church. Then you find out most Catholics, most Protestants are just not engaging in that actually. And it's this very small pocket of people who it's all they talk about and all they think about. And it is sort of that. It's just this is all my whole feed is just full of this stuff. Mm-hmm. This is what I'm debating people on constantly. So it feels like it must be the biggest issue in the world. And it's just not. Not as big as it feels, I think. Mm-hmm. I talk to Protestants all the time who are just so stressed about whether or not they're in the right church. And it's because of these sort of, at least from my perspective, these young guys who have turned sort of militant. Mm-hmm. And I'm very ecumenical. I love Roman Catholicism. I love Eastern Orthodoxy. They don't always love me back, but I love them. And I think that those expressions of Christianity are really, really important, and they're necessary. Yeah, that's not everyone's favorite approach, but I think at this point, that's how I feel. But there is a sort of the youthful tendency is I need to have certainty, and even I'll settle even for the illusion of certainty. So you find all these guys who are bouncing from one denomination to the next, to the next, to the next, and it's this is reflective of some issues. So, yeah.
I think since leaving religion altogether and now talking kind of to a number of religious people, the new perspective that I have is that it turns out that Protestants know that Catholics exist, right. And they know about the Church Fathers and they've thought about these issues before. I think the caricature of sort of Catholics are to read church history is to cease to be Protestant. Or as soon as you hear about the wonderful bastion of orthodoxy known as Catholicism, it's just a matter of time. Or if I take my Protestant friend and tell him about the Eucharist and bring him to Mass, he's going to levitate and convert on the spot. Right. If I throw a few miraculous medals, it'll solve everything. And then if Catholics just knew about, or if Protestants knew about us Catholics, they wouldn't, or they'd automatically convert. And since leaving and talking to a number of Protestant Christians, it's oh, it turns out you guys know what Catholics are. Surprise, surprise. It's kind of a caricature. Obviously Catholics wouldn't say that Protestants don't think that Catholics exist. But it sounds like you've read a church father or two. Yeah, you know what Catholics teach, and you're still not convinced and about to have your confirmation tomorrow.
Yeah, I've heard something they say passionate Protestants convert to Roman Catholicism. Yeah. Lukewarm Catholics convert to Protestant. It's bro, come on. We were sort of talking already, mm-hmm. And people just don't want to admit that their decisions and their conclusions are shaped by more than just this is absolutely the truth and I'm being completely intellectually honest. We're all shaped by more things than that. So you have a bad experience with a Protestant, you sort of react against that, you find yourself as a Roman Catholic. I'm not saying that every conversion we're seeing is dishonest. Of course, I don't think that. And I'm excited about people. And anytime someone is, for me in my eyes, is making a passionate decision that leads someone deeper toward Christ and into deeper union with Christ, I'm heck yeah. Friends who have converted to Catholicism or Eastern Orthodoxy, I'm if it's leading you to have a deeper fidelity to Christ, then I'm stoked about it. Yeah. It doesn't bother me. I'm not you're missing out on something now because you're not a Protestant. But so the sort of search for me began because I grew up around some like deeply fundamentalist beliefs about Catholics that certain groups of Protestants can hold, like all Catholics are going to hell, or Catholics might be saved in spite of their Catholicism.
Yeah.
And I just began to question that so hard because I started reading Catholics, like accidentally. I was reading G.K. Chesterton. I was reading Peter Crave, these art guys, sort of like philosophy-oriented people, being like, wow, these guys are geniuses. How are they Catholics? Because Catholics go to hell. No, that's what I was exposed to. So then I started to have such deep respect, and my life was being changed by literature that was written by Catholics. So I'm like, okay, so surely it doesn't work for me to just be like, they're all going to burn. They're all deceived. They believe a false gospel. I thought that was so obnoxious. And so I just started the search of like, what do they actually believe about these things that I've spent my life hearing they're terrible about? They're terrible on like the Mariology stuff and the saints. And then I'm just like, oh, like none of this is what I thought it was. And actually, if anybody has a really thorough explanation for why they believe something, it's a Catholic. Like, so when you I started realizing like how big the beast was. So like if I was going to take a theological disagreement with the Roman Catholic Church, it meant like the undermining of an entire epistemological stance, like not just one doctrine. Like these things are all holding each other together. And that's a much bigger task. I still feel comfortable being a Protestant, but I gained like a deep respect for the apostolic traditions.
I think Catholics also have this idea that, like, you know, if we tell the Protestants that we don't worship Mary and then kind of do the dulia, hyperdulia, latria distinction, like, we'll just, once they realize that maybe that inaccurate beliefs, they'll come to our beliefs.
Yeah.
And since I can tell, it's like, even that Protestants can know what Catholic teaching is and, like, appreciate it and still not be convinced by it. Like, it's not either you worship Mary or Mary was conceived without the stain of original sin. Like, those aren't the two options on the table. Like, there's a number of, like, positions in between. And one of the things, at least the Catholic Church, from, like, the bishops and the priests that are trying to react to this younger movement, is that it's very apologetic-centered. Where I think a criticism that's levied against new Gen Z Catholicism is that it's much more of an intellectual exercise than a relationship. That it's a sort of like, I have to be able to prove this to like live out the faith. And like everything in their eyes is filtered through just like a sort of just apologetics versus a relationship. Is that something that you see just with these younger Catholics? Is that something that you're seeing in Protestant churches? What do you make of this sort of like apologetics bro online culture where everybody's stitching each other ad infinitum? Like,
yeah, 100%. That's everywhere. Like everybody's constantly correcting each other. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
Like it can feel sort of hostile, but at the end of the day, like I think it's fun. And I think that there will be a net positive effect from all of this. In the meantime, there's going to be some messiness in the process. But what will end up happening is we'll all, at least my sort of hopeful expectation is that we'll all just sort of make each other better in the end. Like we'll all sharpen this is just it's sort of a messy version of like iron sharpening iron. Yeah. So I know like the ideal conclusion is different in each person's minds. Like the Roman Catholic, like they're like, I'm going to convert some Protestants, and some Protestants are like, I'm going to bring them back to the wayward path of the Protestant reformers. And in the end, there probably won't be a lot of those two results. It's going to happen in both directions. Some people will become Protestant. Some people will become Roman Catholic. It's just like the hot thing to just be denomination swapping right now. Whether it's into mainline Protestant denominations or Roman Catholicism or Eastern Orthodox. I know people who have gone through all three and finally ended at one. And it's just like the like sort of denominational schizophrenia. And I think at the end of the day, like there'll be less conversions happening and more just like Christ using something like this, in my opinion, to beautify his church. And so I'm content with like some of the appearing hostility. People will learn sort of Christian sort of debate virtues over time, I hope. And it'll lead in the end for people to sort of help each other become more like Christ and have a better sense of why we believe what we believe. I think that's Catholics sort of being like, you don't get us is a great thing. Sort of cornering Protestants into figuring out why they're not Catholics. I'm stoked about that. Some people in the process are going to go, I need to become a Catholic. And some are going to go, actually, I'm more certain of my Protestantism than ever before. And I think those are both good results, to be honest. Some people don't like that that's how I feel. But wherever the church is getting better at being the church, I'm like, it's a win, at least in my eyes.
Yeah. I've talked to a few different younger Catholic apologists who, within like a week or two of switching to denominations, now they're doing like that denomination apologetics, and you're like, this is recent. Like, and I see the same thing with some people, when they leave religion, it's like by the next week they're making an atheist YouTube channel. It's like, you're like a week into this, like maybe we can pause. In my own, like, I left religion. It was a year and a half later that I started barely talking about things on the internet. It's like, I can't imagine the sort of moving into a new intellectual space and then immediately being like the spokesperson for it.
Yeah, I think people will regret that. Mm-hmm. So as someone who, I started posting Christian content on the internet when I was 16 years old. So my sort of whole thought development, character development was all happening in front of millions of people. And that was challenging. It was fun, but it's something I look back and I'm like embarrassed about. And I have my regrets about feeling the need to be a spokesperson for something I wasn't ready to talk about. And I think some of these guys will sort of grow up and look back and feel embarrassed about that. I mean, you kind of have to. If you like switch from like being like the apologist for one kind of Christianity to the next, like that's sort of the most like extreme form. Yeah. But I just think that young guys should just learn to deal a little bit better with the pressure to like know everything and be the sort of the spokesperson, the online representative for that thing. Like it's okay to take your time and like let your thoughts bake and figure out why you think what you think. So I think there will be some like a little bit of regret in the future, maybe a little bit of embarrassment in the future on something like that. But again, it's like it's the exchange of ideas, and young people are like having fun doing the exchange of ideas. I'm like, we'll pay the price for that a little bit, being embarrassed. But like, even I look back on things that I've said in the last couple of years, even on the denomination conversation, I look back and I'm like, God, I'm already thinking like a year from now, I'm going to hear my like peace-loving ecumenical position. I'm going to look back and go, idiot, or something like that. But it's like, it's the nature of it,
Catholic
right?
never told me that.
Yeah,
I
we're learning together.
Something worse.
Or like the Catholics will be really mean to me and really mean to me in the comments, as they usually are, and since forever, by the way. Catholics are always mean to me in the comment section. Even when I was criticizing them, super mean, and now that I like them, they're like mean to me still. I'm like, okay, guys, I'll look back and regret it and go, I should have been opposed to them. Should have never sided with the Catholics.
It was a conversation between a Catholic and a Protestant influencer, and I forget. I tend to memorize most everything that I watch. That one, I can't even remember who was involved. But their point was this sort of like youth group level apologetics on things where you hear the one side of the argument and then you're so confident and can't see it any other way that it just turns into vitriol on the other side. Like Catholics like, Protestants have never studied church history. And so when I tell them about whatever this church teaching is and a church father, like if they don't immediately accept it, they're dumb and they hate Jesus. And it's like, there's a whole other side to this. Like you can be right, and also the other side cannot be completely vacuous of any amount of pushback.
There's a possibility that even people who disagree with you have done critical thinking.
Yes.
Like there's a possibility that they actually feel intellectually justified in their conclusions, and they're not just like pretending. Yeah. And so I think that's really dishonest for Protestants and Roman Catholics alike to like sort of pretend that people who are making different conclusions from them, like I want them to believe what they believe with full-hearted conviction. Absolutely. But you can be completely convicted in your heart about a belief that you hold without going, anyone who doesn't think this way hasn't thought hard enough. Mm-hmm. When you're 80, you can think like that, but in the meantime, that's, in my eyes, that's pretty arrogant to think that like anyone who disagrees with me is because they haven't thought as good as I do or haven't, really put the effort in to figure out the truth. That's a really bold assumption. Yeah. And I don't want to be caught in an act of like arrogance, thinking little of people who disagree with me because and I can really believe that I'm right. But again, there has to be a possibility for, at least within the Christian conversation, for people to honestly arrive at conclusions that are different than mine. And you have to be patient, because you might be right, but also just like assuming you are and sort of projecting that on everybody else is like, so I don't have a lot of doubts about my Protestantism. I feel justified in it. Spent years now reckoning with this stuff in an honest way. Like I had my like non-denom pop apologetics for like Catholics pray to saints and they worship Mary and they believe you have to work to be saved. Yeah. And then you like actually get the truth. And I started learning about, the beatific vision and what Catholics actually mean by asking the saints to pray for them and where they are in their Mariology and the tradition and, infused versus imputed righteousness, like the differences in these conversations. And then you sort of just figure out like, if a person is deep in a Protestant perspective on theology, they'll be doing an active, like honest attempt at figuring out the truth. But they'll be doing it in a Protestant way. So the same thing is true of Catholics. Like we're going to be approaching things just as honestly, but with our backgrounds and with our sort of the ways that we come to truth. And it's going to lead to two different results, even though you're making an honest attempt. So has to be some sort of mercy shared between, charity shared between Christians who are engaging in conversations like this, and even between Christians and atheists.
Yeah, I recently saw a atheist influencer, I think his brother or his friend or somebody close to him just started a second channel. And my understanding is that this person has never been involved in religion. I think they might have been like all of 16 making like an atheist YouTube channel. And it's like, was the original influencers essentially like points recycled. It's like you got no lived experience. You're very young. You've never talked to a religious person. You haven't read any of the books. Like, what is the point of this channel? Like, what are you going to add to the conversation? And then it's all like, all these dumb religious people. And it's like,
what original thought are you bringing to this?
Like, who invited you to the party? Like, there's sort of I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, you shouldn't be atheist at like a 16-year-old that's never interacted with religion, but a sort of like now public spokesperson. And everything was just like recycled stuff. Like nothing of substance is being added from anything here.
Yeah. I try not to speak with, so when I was 16, I was making all these theology videos and speaking with absolute certainty on so much stuff that I've changed my mind about. And that's a bummer now. Like those videos are all deleted, but people still remember them and people save them. And it's like, I like cringe on like my like hardcore stance. And it's not even that theological position was like bad. I just don't think it anymore. And I regret that like people think of me. For years, I had to like undo my reputation as like the Calvinist. I was like the Gen Z TikTok Calvinist. And that being known as that for so long, even though like I very shortly after making those videos, like stopped identifying that way. So embarrassing. Like thinking of like, man, I'd made myself the spokesperson of something that wasn't even Calvinism, like had nothing to do with John Calvin. It was just like barely even tulip, like, which has nothing to do. I just knew like I didn't
tell me you were Calvinist.
Really?
Yeah, when I was getting ready for this conversation.
5 years later, people still. That's crazy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? The like consequence of my actions. It's like I try and, theology. No matter who you are, the conversation only works if we're willing to approach with humility.
Yeah.
So like when I engage with you as an atheist, like I have to engage with humility and come to the end and be like, you know what? I don't have like verifiable evidence. Like here he is. Here's God. There's no reason you shouldn't be believing.
Here's the manila folder.
Right. And even though I think you're stupid. No, I'm just kidding. Even though I think atheism is ridiculous. Like I'm perfectly convinced of Christianity, but for the conversation to work, like it's going to take some humility and recognize like, you know what? It doesn't just make him an idiot because he hasn't landed in the same place as me. And the same is the case like in the Christian conversation. Like I regret becoming a spokesperson for a belief that I didn't fully understand and for a belief that I ended up changing my mind on. And now it's out there and I'm like, it could. Sort of the Gen Z disease. It's just like speak hastily and with absolute certainty about something that you are not certain about as soon as, like just get it out there as soon as possible. Make your voice heard. And I'm like, man, I want to say stuff that is valuable and helpful. And that means I got to think really critically, read, learn, let my thoughts develop over time. And so I try to avoid like, this is why like even when we're talking about denomination stuff, like I'm not giving you here's my 10 arguments for why I'm a Protestant. And I'm sort of speaking like, I love Catholics. I love them. I love because I'm not going to get on here and speak and pretend to be the sort of ultimate voice on the issue because I have a lot to learn in these conversations. And what is frustrating about them is people who pretend as if they don't. Then it's like the possibility of an honest, productive conversation has ended the moment you felt the need to pretend like you know this better than you do.
That's what I found in the sort of religion, philosophy, politics, online debate world spheres that I incredibly dislike people that magically have the answers on everything. Like even if I, let's say, agree with somebody with a sort of host of opinions, it's like there is not enough time in the world, given your current age, to have looked at all of these issues, like in depth, that at least you're wrong in at least one of these things because you have seen almost nothing about all of these issues. And it just strikes me as an odd platform to have where these people have to speak on everything and then some event pops up and they got to speak on that. And then somebody's like, what about this 18th century like philosophical thing? And they got to speak on that. It's like, man, there's like, this journey's just getting started. Like,
Yeah, I've seen a lot of atheist influencers do this kind of thing where, you know, they're giving an argument against Christianity or against God, and it's like they'll give, you know, the worst version of the problem of evil you've ever heard.
yes.
And you're like, come on, bro. Like, the only person who's going to hear this and like find it compelling is like a 14-year-old. Like, you've got to actually, like, don't get up here and make content about the problem of evil and how it's like this massive L against Christianity. You even like read Aquinas. Like, you even read any like,
Well, it's like first memorize the talking point better. Like, I've talked to some apologetic influencers, and they're muddying like the 5 ways into one omnibus like conglomeration of them, where they'll like steal premises from the different arguments and then get to a separate conclusion. You're like, that's not even the argument. Like, memorize the flashcard first, okay, and then you can bring it. Like,
I'm cool with regurgitating Thomas. Honestly, you're probably going to land in a good place most of the time if you do that, because he was brilliant. But
if you just memorize the Sumo article, you're going to be a better position than
100. If you just learn a Thomas better, you'll be in a better place. I love Thomas Aquinas, like a huge fan. I can't wait to hang out with that guy. I was going to say I would love to hang out with that guy, and then I remembered, like, just to be clear, I actually think I am going to hang out with that guy.
Yes.
But yeah, I think I see it all the time. Like, I've even seen it, you know, I'll see it in like these TikTok live debates, dudes, you know, like dropping the problem of evil. And I'm like, you clearly have never read like a good Christian argument against this, and you think it doesn't exist. And that's the part that I'm like, I can't take you seriously. I can't take you seriously until like you get a little bit more informed on this, because I can tell by the way you're arguing, either you're horrifically dishonest and pretending like there isn't a response, or you're very poorly informed. So I'm even like sort of challenged by you to learn more and when engaging in these kinds of conversations, because I can sort of stay in the Christians engaging with Christians conversation and think more theologically or biblically. And when talking about like the philosophical stuff, it's my weak. What's my weakest link in my
soon to be strongest?
Yeah. And I'm like challenged by you, because I don't think that you've arrived at your conclusions because of some like fault in you or because you're an idiot. Like, I think you're actually very brilliant. And while I don't think atheism is true, I can't just be like, get that out of here. That's not worth dealing with, you know, this guy. It's like, no, I'm challenged to be like, if I'm going to talk on this, I got to know more than this guy. I got to know more than you. I got to get there, you know?
It's, trying to memorize all the talking points. And what I found, and maybe you have a similar approach, but in real life, almost nobody knows what my thoughts on religion are. Like, between work and friends, like, I keep all of the like nerdy stuff I do on the internet just
right.
I just don't like talking about that to like the average person off the street. And so then when I see these kind of like apologetic conversations go down between friends on a set or whatever, I just kind of like sit back and I'm trying to figure out, do these people even know their talking points? And just kind of like the guy in the corner of the room, like, oh, very interesting. Like, I hate those conversations because it's always like 10 minutes at a random line in Starbucks. And it's like, this isn't going anywhere. Like, if you tell me something Christian, we're going to go with it. And somebody's going on a rant about atheism. It's like, oh, very cool. Like, everything's very cool for me in real life. Do you ever try to avoid those conversations? Obviously, I'd imagine probably a higher percent of people in your real life know what you think. But do you ever try to avoid those just like useless man off the street apologetic type things?
Yeah. One thing I would say, there's nothing more intimidating to me than a theologian or an apologist who is like a blue collar worker or like has a real job. Those guys are the scariest people in the world. They're like working like you and like finding the time. I'm like, what in the world? This is a superhuman, you know, dudes who are like plumbers. And then they're like, anyway, go off on that. Like, I was talking to this kid recently at a youth camp I was preaching at, and he's like a leader who's like in like biomedical engineering or something crazy, and like is finding the time to study apologetics. I'm like, dude, your brain is awesome.
We got a sleeper agent.
So I'm like, yeah, exactly. I'm so intimidated. I don't know. It's sort of my full-time job to talk about my beliefs. So it's less of like a secret. I think I more so invite those conversations, but you definitely like, part of what it looks like is when engaging in them is sort of knowing your audience and being like, there's definitely a more technical side to this, but you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And so we'll talk down here. Absolutely. And, there's sort of that tension as I'm like, do I tell you there's like another layer here? Like, but but then it gets boring. So it's like, whatever. Try and like meet people where they are. I think, when people have that sort of like finesse to recognize like what level to engage at based on the person they're talking to, that's how you really know what you're talking about, is if you can do that. But yeah, I'm sure you have those moments where you hear people sort of like, even atheists, like dunking on Christianity, and you're like,
no.
You're like, no, your reasons for doing this are not good. And that's sort of what I was saying earlier today, is that like the conversation just always moves further back. Like the smarter someone gets, the more technical the conversation gets, and the higher order the questions become. And so like people will find an answer that satisfies them at different levels, right? So like some people will hear like a pop apologetics or like a new atheist argument. Both of them are not very good, but they feel very compelling. And so they're like, yep, okay, that's what I think. And some people are going to question that and go a level higher, and then go a level higher, until you get into these like first order questions that are just like, what are we even talking about anymore? And when you know those questions and those arguments, talking about anything underneath can feel like, yeah, but what about, we got to get here eventually,
That's what I think you do brilliantly, is able to beat somebody there. Like I only have the two modes, which is perfectly understanding and fully agreeing, or like nerding out on like 5 steps down the rabbit hole. Like steps 2, 3, and 4 are like ones that I can't stay at, that I've seen you be able to modulate between all of those. I'm like, it's either everybody's awesome, or we're going off about Peter Kreeft or something on like his metaphysical principle. Like there's no in between, which is why I try to like in real life not ever have those conversations, because it just goes whoop.
Yeah, I guess it's sort of recognizing everybody is at a different level in their journey, figuring out what they believe, and you can't rush people. Yeah, like I can't like all the effort that it's taken you to get where you are, you can't give that to somebody in one conversation. So it's like, how do I get where you are and like engage with you honestly and help you think better thoughts, and just be better about recognizing the truth and being, honest. Yeah. And that just like takes time. In Christianity, we would call something like this discipleship. Like in someone's discipleship journey, as I'm like trying to help them, I can't like make them, someone that I look up to, or myself, like overnight, depending on where they're at in their journey. Like it just takes time. So it'll sometimes take like giving them the easier form of a truth and letting them sort of feast upon it. And then when the time comes, you get like sort of the full picture. There's stuff I've learned theologically, apologetically, that I would never have been ready for when I was first becoming a Christian. Not just because of my age, because like for it to make sense, you need like a whole host of knowledge. But that like everybody's awesome thing is great too.
I've seen a number of Catholic apologists essentially like corner random Protestants and then just go to like level 5 immediately. And I've seen a few Catholic street apologists is like becoming a thing, which is infinitely funny for me for many reasons. But it's like
chill when evangelicals do it, but like Catholics.
No, because it's this guy who's like, he's talking to like some random Protestant grandma, like trying to grill her on the like 5 solos, and then like 4 layers down, and she's like still figuring out that like, oh, maybe I am like sola scriptura. Like the guy's like, you like make a decision, and she's just like, I'm walking through the park, okay, I'm hearing you telling me what you think that my church believes, and then you're like pulling first century quotes. Like,
it turns out not everyone is thinking about this all the time. That's what makes the conversation annoying when you get out of it and you're talking to a real person. Yeah. It's because like they're probably not going about their daily life thinking about all this nerd stuff that you're thinking about.
So if you immediately want a conversion out of these people, it's like I overshare myself plenty all the time, but then there's sort of like, and what's your verdict right now? Somebody who's just I gave you both sides of the talking point on Catholic versus Protestant, like in the middle of a park. It's like, I don't know, she probably got to think about it, talk to somebody, like, think through this, because this is the first time she's hearing about the solas that her church believes. Like, you don't need to like immediately get the sale out of it. Like,
yeah, both of those groups of people are going to grow up hearing from the people in their group, like, to not be a part of the other group. And I'm sorry, it's just, we're just talking about human nature. You give them the most compelling argument possible. Most people are still going to be like, yeah, but I trust my Protestant family or my Catholic family at the end of the day, because they don't prioritize all the things that you do, like epistemologically. And so like hitting some old granny and be like, well, can you justify that belief?
Like, no.
No. My Baptist preacher told me that my
John
whole life.
Calvin said this thing. It's like, who? Like,
who's that?
Who's that? What am I defending now?
It's the same as the case. There's plenty of Catholics who like are clueless, and it's just the way it is. So it's funny, like you do all this apologetics training and like then you end up just talking to other apologists, other people who have done all the same reading, and it's like, oh, so this is never ending. This is just gonna go in a circle forever.
Sort of like magician's trick where you just like start pulling the like handkerchiefs out and just like keeps on going, and then you see on. I was enjoying YouTube when it's sort of like a response to a response of a response of a response, and like the video essays just keep getting longer and longer.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this could go on for forever. One of the other things that I wanted to hit is, so we did nearly 3 hours of sort of like Christianity versus atheism, hit a number of apologetic talking points. What's been your own relation to apologetics and your faith life? And what do you see that role of kind of apologetics being in your personal life and ministry?
Apologetics, like doing the studies and doing the reading, it's that same kind of thing. Like Christian apologetics, you've got like the stuff you first confront and the stuff you first read, and then you find out like years later that stuff is terrible, and it's like just not good. So I've sort of gone through that process of trying to like be, intellectually honest. But it's been tremendously helpful for me. Like I'm a skeptic at my heart. I'm a doubter. I don't really blindly trust anything or anybody. And so it's been like, I have to ask these kinds of questions, but then it's over time, become like, man, how can I be of help to other people who are on like a faith journey? And so that's sort of a big motivation for me in learning, is I've been in the position where I felt like really anxious about, sort of dealt with like almost like a scrupulosity. Like I'm freaking like, do I believe the right thing? And sort of panicking and not being able to sleep because I'm like, I just don't know. And the search that prompted was really great for me and really benefited me. And people who are on that journey, feeling confused is hard. It sucks. Yeah. It's not a great feeling. And sort of the panic, especially when in religion where, the stakes are eternal. Mm-hmm. It's like really freaks you out. It's like nothing in my life, the stakes are eternal. So it's scary. And I think fear sucks. Like just feeling, it just robs people of so much. And so if I can do the studying and do the nerding out so that I can help people, I'm like, yeah, that's the approach. So rather than, Paul's like, he says like knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. I'm like, man, I want to do the pursuit of knowledge, not as like a prideful activity or a self-building activity, but like, how can I be a help to others? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why I think some of that apologetic stuff is best oriented towards people who are within your own community in like a pastoral sense. Like, oh man, like they need some like shepherding, or in an evangelistic sense, people who are totally on the fringes. So, like I get Catholics want us to come home to Rome. I understand it. And they think that,
sweet home.
Yeah. Right. And they think that it would be, there's things we're missing. We're missing the host. Like we're missing the real body,
blood, soul, and divinity.
Yeah,
of our Lord Jesus Christ, holy, truly, and substantially present in the Blessed Sacrament.
Exactly.
Trademark.
Sort of missing that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I like believe real presence in the Eucharist. Like lots of traditional Protestants hold like a high view of the sacraments, like myself. They'd say we don't have the priesthood, so it doesn't count. So I get like the reasons there, like they want to make reverts out of Protestants. They want Protestants to come home. I understand that, but I think like their energy best be spent on people within their own community. Help keep them in the church. Like that's a great use of that gift. And people who are totally on the fringes, who don't believe in Christ at all, or have walked away, like that's an honorable way to use the tool. I'm not saying that having conversation with people in other denominations is like wrong or there's something unvirtuous about it or something. It's not like a vice. I just think it's like the effort is not being as best spent as it could be. You could be like helping people within your own community who are struggling, or helping people who are completely outside the boundaries of the church find the beauty that you've found, instead of just like debating with your brothers in the faith. Maybe they'd call us like cousins or something.
Well, then you'd have to get into, did Jesus have brothers or cousins type of Greek apologetics?
So good. Dude, it's like, oh my gosh, like nothing is more annoying than like learning all of this stuff and then going on the internet and seeing people engaging in the conversation the way you used to do it, and you're like, So I was on like X recently, and I saw someone tweet like, I literally just found out that people think that Jesus had brothers, and like a Protestant responds like, I just found out people think he doesn't, and they're just like, look, the word clearly says they waited until and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is going to drive me crazy. Like, can we talk about the stuff that matters, please? You know?
I had a friend who recently became Christian and kept asking me, like, what's the right church to join? And, like, tried going down the apologetics kind of route. I was just like, don't do it. Like, join a church that you love and that you find peace in. And, like, apologetics kind of sends you down a very different track of how you view religion. Like, you will be happiest not engaging in, like, terminally online discussions on who has, the right church, which is like, and he kept trying to ask for my opinion. I was like, every time I was like, I have my thoughts. It's going to spoil everything for you. Like, it's a sort of useless thing. And there's things in his life that he was searching for meaning and found it in Christianity. I was like, that is awesome. And find a church and go to it. Like, don't push the envelope too far into apologetics. Also, apologetics isn't sort of like an end into itself, where I think in a proper, let's say, Christian understanding, like it's a tool to get people somewhere, but like you won't get to the pearly gates in a Christian understanding and be like, tell me about the Greek word in like John 6 isn't exactly like a condition in any major Christian tradition to get into heaven. It's also, I find, quite a toxic place. And I've seen people leave the church and they want to like get into sort of the philosophy world. And it's like, if you just don't think about this again, you're going to be so much happier than like nerding out on this.
It's like, bro, I'm a 22-year-old guy. Yeah. I'm not going to get on the internet and listen to some other 22-year-old guy give me his presentation of a 1,000-year-old or a 500-year-old debate. Yeah. There's a lot we both need to parse through before I get your whole take on I'm not looking for a security about the church that I'm in from some other 20-something on the internet who's ChatGPTing his arguments. I'm not. I'm not saying that I know everything or that I'm the most well-read person in the world. I'm just like, you're not my source of truth. Yeah. And the sort of conversation it's presented always feels like the end of the world, when it's presented. I'm like, you know what? In my eyes, there's all these people out here. There's Christians, in America who are completely oblivious to the conversation, completely oblivious. They have like no clue what's happening on the internet. What the Catholic apologists are saying about Protestants. They have no clue.
Gavin Ortlund response number 7 to Trent Horn response number 6.
Like these conversations are important and valuable, and there's people who will go nuts if they don't have them. I think that's important. But I think there's also like 70-year-old ladies in Catholic churches or Russian Orthodox churches or Baptist churches in the middle of nowhere on the East Coast, and like in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina. And that woman has just been faithful to Christ all her life. Yes. And she believes no creed but the Bible, but she's got the Holy Spirit and she loves God and she obeys the scripture as well as she can. And I'm just like, the Bible does say, like, believe in your heart, confess with your mouth that you'll be saved. Yeah. Now, is it worth deliberating over all this? Like, absolutely. Like, there's some of us like me who I just can't pretend like this conversation isn't happening. But just to be so dismissive of that was my problem with Protestants. So I'm like, most Christians, like I'm a non-denominational, most Christians in the world don't do it the way that I do it. So now I need to deal with, how can I justify my expression of Christianity? And how can I pretend like high church expressions of Christianity are invalid when most Christians in the world and in history have done it that way? Yeah. Well, now I need like a pretty well built out argument, because I'm looking in the face of lots of Christians and going, my way is better. Or even some Protestants are going like, not only is my way better, but your way doesn't actually lead to salvation. That was really frustrating for me. Like, I'm like, no way, this diversity between it has to be okay. Like, there's no way just because someone is in this faith expression, which believes all the core tenets we believe lead to salvation, but they deviate in some secondhand issue, that person is not a part of the church. Like, I'm like, I'm sorry, I just don't think that way about it. Now, there's some core things that I believe you can't deny. Like, Mormons are not included in my picture of what a Christian is. And some Mormons really don't like that. I'm like, well, the stuff that we have in common with the Roman Catholics and the Eastern Orthodox, we don't have that in common with you. And the things that we have different are real different, like otherworldly different. Not saying that the differences between apostolic traditions and Protestants aren't big things, but it's on another scale, So
I think that there's a tendency, whether it's politics or religion or philosophy, where you have to be able to successfully convert the other side to your side in order to feel justified. And it's like, that's just not going to happen. Like, you can go crazy on the internet on whatever opinion you want to try to propagate out there and to believe. Like, you're just not going to be able to convince everybody. And that doesn't mean that you're completely unjustified in holding a position. Like, you feeling justified in the position doesn't mean that you have to be able to convert like some random internet commenter number 75.
Right.
It's like you will never get enough people to give you permission to have sort of justified belief in something. At a certain point, you're like, I've thought through this, and it's fun. Or like I do this for the fun of the game. I don't think that I'm going to make some huge impact. It's just like I would have 5 years of Catholic apologetics like thrown out the window, like, and so now I get to like podcast and like have fun doing it.
Right.
But it's
all
not,
your apologetics research is useless to you now, so may as well do something with it.
Yeah, 5-6 years of my life, and I've even seen it now talking with people in politics, where they think like the only way they can be effective is if they can debate a topic. And it's like, if you take your Saturday afternoon and like knock doors for whatever campaign you want to be a part of, or make whatever content, like you showing up on whether it's Jubilee or a podcast, like you could use those hours and probably make a bigger impact than like some podcast out there, just by the numbers. Like if you care about something on whatever persuasion it is, it does not necessitate you like debating that full time. You can make such an impact without doing stitch videos on Instagram Reels
Right.
for like number 75.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what's so you've talked kind of about your own Protestant Catholic, we're looking at those issues. You're talking about kind of getting more into apologetics, but not going all the way. What do you think your sort of next steps in the content space are going to be? You came on to do much more of apologetic conversation. You also do a lot of preaching. Like, where do you hope kind of this ministry and your interests are going to evolve over the next few years?
That's a great question. More and more nerd stuff for sure. You know, I don't just want to be like to be fair, I'm the world's worst influencer. Like I'm terrible at it. I don't have like a passion for building my platform very much. Not as much as I used to. You know, I want to do my PhD. Like I want to like actually be a scholar, and like really go there. But yeah, I guess there's a lot of diversity of expressions. I just love talking about God with whoever will listen. I'm like deeply intrigued with love talking to atheists about the Lord and about the Bible. I don't know. I also preach to young people and to Sunday morning churches. Like I don't know. That's a great question. I'm just going to keep doing it.
One
where are
day
you
at a
going?
time. Where am I going? I've always thought that my rule for content is that I only do stuff that I find interesting. Like I get a lot of podcast requests from different people that want to be, they're on my side and want to be on, and people that want to debate whatever. And it's like, if I wouldn't have this conversation without a camera, like I'm not doing the thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
I've seen too many people, they kind of grow an audience and then they have to keep feeding it. And then they either start recycling things or just putting things out there that they're not passionate about. It's like, I think with content, I will have as many interesting conversations as that may be, and then it'll probably die down. Like I don't see what I do as sort of like a lifelong thing. I'm guessing that I will be passionate about it for a long time. But also like at a certain point, I feel like I'm going to run out of new conversations and new people to talk to. And whenever that time comes, it'll just kind of be an archive on the internet for other people to listen to. And I'll be like, I feel like I've said what I want to say, and anything else would be a sort of conjecture beyond that.
Yeah.
And then where do you think the online Christian atheism debate is going? I feel like we're in this new influx where sort of the new atheism, the edgier stuff is dead. Everybody dislikes that. And I feel like that might have been helpful for the era in which you had like 2005, like flat Earth, or not flat earthers, of new Earth, young Earth creationists versus like these crazy atheists. I feel like that's kind of done, at least in my own experience. It seems like on the internet, these conversations are like calming down.
Yeah.
They're getting technical, and maybe that's just because I've ran through all of this sort of like flashier stuff, and it's much nerdier. But my impression of where kind of this conversation over the next few years is going is it's going to be a lot more calm discussions, a lot more friendly discussions, a lot more nuanced discussions, and that atheism as an entity might have new voices, but they're certainly not going to be the ones of old. And I think apologists are recognizing that on their own side. Where do you think that conversation's going? I also might just be down such a boring feed now that
Yeah, it's possible. I definitely think that people are still arguing about that in comment sections still to this day. But sort of what's becoming the more mainstream conversation, I agree with you that it is becoming more technical, more reasonable, more sort of broad than the really intense, like militant atheist versus the angry fundamentalist. I think everybody is sort of tired of that conversation because it represents such a small portion of the population. And it's like, nobody wants to be Richard Dawkins. You listen to him talk and you're like, I don't want to be that guy. I just don't.
Does not sound fun.
And
like,
lots of the people that he debates, I'm like, I don't want to be them either. Like, there's got to be like and so I think what's interesting, a lot of the questions are becoming more technical. Like I do, theology Q&A with young adults and people all over. And the questions I'm getting are, they used to be like kind of boring. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, I'm getting questions like, how can I trust the book of Hebrews if we don't know who wrote it? I'm like, whoa, you're 14, dog. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like the questions are becoming much more, people are being exposed to so many new ideas, exposed to so many people sort of criticizing the Bible and Christianity, that what prompts you to do is like, okay, are there answers on these things? So, I got a friend of mine, my wife's good friend, sent me a reel this week that was like an argument about the unreliability of the Gospel of John due to the it being changed and Martha being added into the text based off of a 3rd century manuscript. Yeah. And she sends me this, and I'm like, I've got to help her. Like, she's like, what are we supposed to think about this? Yeah. The like disappearance of Martha from this. I'm like, whoa, like, why are we talking? Like, ask me about the problem of evil. You're asking me about manuscript of 67 of John, like papyrus 67. I'm like, that's the most insane thing. So I think the conversation is like, getting significantly more specific, and it's centered around sort of like, is there a world in which I can trust Christianity? Because the caricature of Christianity for so long was the sort of like, young earth creationist, flat earth, and almost feels like Christianity is an anti-intellectual thing. And so people are wondering, like, is that the case? Is that true? Can we justify the things that we think? And those are the heavy hitters. Those are the questions I feel like people are asking. And at the same time, I think atheists are beginning to take Christians more seriously. Yeah. So, this sort of like, and I don't dislike these guys, but people are beginning to feel less and less like the strong voices in the world are like the Frank Turek's and the William Lane Craig's. Like, I like those guys. But I think people are like looking for, there are atheists who now know that those aren't like the sole apologetic voices that we have. I like a lot of William Craig's thoughts and enjoyed Frank Turek in high school, but I think atheists are beginning, like there's more to this conversation historically than just like the pop apologetics YouTube people, which means that they've more thoughtfully engaged. They're more careful about their claims because there actually are intellectual Christians who can justify the things that they believe. And it feels like Christian scholarship is like becoming cool again, and people like Bible scholars again. Like it's like in vogue. I like it. So yeah, I think I see a good direction for the conversation. People are tired of, I think this is a resident of like the sort of past few years of politics. People are just so grossed out with like that conversations that are really intensely divisive and sort of like, I get it, you don't, because of what you think, that makes you a bad, terrible person that I can't be friends with. People are just like so grossed out of that kind of conversation, I think. And so that is affecting the tone of theological conversations just as well. Like everyone I feel is desperate to learn how to disagree better. And that means that people are learning not to straw man each other, which means the arguments are getting more specific because you have to deal with like the real stuff that isn't the stuff that feels. So same thing between cross-denominational conversations, Christians and atheists. I watched a debate recently between an Orthodox guy and a Roman Catholic guy. And it was like interesting at first. And then it was like an hour and a half of referencing like obscure documents. And I'm like, you know what? That's incredibly boring. But I appreciate this approach to dialogue and to disagreement because it's like, I'm going to know your stuff really well. You're going to know mine. And we're going to thoughtfully engage and not pretend like the stuff people make the conversation out to be is the real substance. Like we're going to go somewhere deep and respect each other in the process.
And as we round out the conversation, there's interesting thing. There's going to be like the groups watching, which are my own audience. There's going to be then the Catholics jumping on based off the title, and then sort of your own kind of Protestants who might stumble across this. So the last two questions are, if you're talking to first a Catholic apologist, what is it that you wish that they would know about your side beginning those conversations? And then once we go through that, then the final question will just be, what do you wish atheists would know about the conversation before entering to you? Not necessarily the apologetical points, but like, what is it that you wish somebody could know emotionally or intellectually, or approach that conversation just a hair better?
Yeah. So Catholics and atheists. Okay. To the Catholic, I would say, I hope they're beginning to feel less of a need to be defensive toward Protestants. And it's because it's sort of Protestants' fault. Protestants don't have a great, especially in America, a great history with being fair to Roman Catholics. And, so again, like I grew up in the kind of circles that was just like undeniable Catholics do not believe the gospel. And that has to be like really upsetting.
Yeah.
Especially when you believe like you're like the one true church, like to hear some random country guy going off about how you're going to hell because you believe the wrong gospel. It's like that has to be really upsetting. I get that would suck. So I can get some of the reasoning, and I just hope they're beginning to feel sort of Protestant respect and appreciation as brothers in the faith, and less of a need to be defensive toward Protestants. But I would say like the best thing that they can do with their learning is aim it inward to their community, and like I was saying before, outward to people who are on the absolute fringe. Engage with Protestants, and honestly, don't make the win like, can I convert Protestants? Because then you'll question like, am I good at this? Like, if I learned enough? You sort of suddenly feel insecure in what might be like a gift that you have, a talent that you have. Because it's like the conversion rate is just, don't make that the win, because it's not even a very productive one. Make the win like, can I build up the faith of people in my community, and can I use this to reach people who have no interaction with the church at all? And sort of there's a way in which like I feel like the best thing we can do on stuff like this is just sort of like leave each other alone, while also being like unified on like, this is the good stuff that we're all after, and I'll celebrate your wins and you'll celebrate mine. I love like the conversation feels so intense, and then I hang out with my bros who are in different churches than me, and like we don't talk about it. Yeah. Like we sharpen each other. It's like one of my really good friends is an Eastern Orthodox guy, and he converted from a very similar tradition that I'm in. And we hang out, I have so much fun with him, and we just like talk about atheism, and we talk about, he makes me a better Protestant and I make him a better Orthodox, because I force him to understand my position better, and he forces me to understand his better. So it takes me deeper to like really understand. And so embracing the whole like iron sharpens iron thing, and not being like militant. That's great. Keep doing what you're doing. Like, just keep being passionate about knowing the truth, defending the church, keeping your friends and family Catholic. Like, yeah, that's an excellent way to serve people, and I love it. And I think it's amazing. I'm going to stay Protestant. Tell you what, maybe I will become Catholic someday. Not, I won't. I won't. Sorry.
You can't tease that one to the Catholics, because then once they see a conversion as possible, then the internet gets the troops are reinforced.
Oh yeah, I've been getting DMs like, come back to Rome. Like, bro, just come back to Rome already. Because I'll post like, oh yeah, I believe like the real presence, or oh, like I really love the Roman Catholic Church, or I read this Catholic author. Like, dude, just come back to Rome already. I'm like, dude, stop. Yes. If you were like reading Protestants, which you obviously never would, which I think Roman Catholics could gain a ton from reading Protestant thinkers, even just sort of Protestant spiritual teachers in the last, like, there are some insanely good Protestant sermons out there that they should listen to just for spiritual formation. Like, anywho,
there's some Catholics are ever reading Protestants, it's sort of like their understanding of Protestantism is filtered through the Catholic apologists citing reformers. Very few of them have ever picked up a Protestant book and just like read it on its own terms.
I don't even mean like read John Calvin. Like, you could do that, but like read like some of the really beautiful thinkers that have come out of the Protestant church in the last 100 years. Like read Dallas Willard, or who's like a modern day mystic, or Eugene Peterson, or like Karl Barth, even like the neo-Orthodox guys. Like, they're really freaking brilliant. Like, they're geniuses. There's incredible thinkers, and they have stuff that can. I'm so blessed and benefited by reading, Roman Catholic writers and thinkers all the time, and I have thoughts that are sort of very Catholic, and they've strengthened my Protestant faith. Like you sort of heard today when we talked, I described my perspective on salvation. It's not the way that most evangelicals describe. I'm basically hinting at theosis, or Christification, I call it. And most Protestants don't use that language. The borrowing that Catholic language was like been so helpful for me. And Protestants have some really great, but Roman Catholics would benefit from understanding Protestant arguments around like the imputation of righteousness. I think it'd be tremendously helpful. You should read some of that kind of stuff. Anyway.
And you've talked teleology in some of your own preaching. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's very Catholic of me.
Yeah.
That's where I get that from. And it's strengthened my faith. And I just think that to sort of like dismiss, like, oh, well, Roman Catholics or Protestants, they're not in Rome, so they haven't come up with anything good.
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, we have some good thoughts. Like, I think it's a practical thing to do to expose yourself to the thinking, not just in apologetics form, of Protestants. I think that we'll read like Protestant apologetic books and just like not about Protestantism, but about other things like the reliability of the Gospels or whatever, because sort of like the best scholars on those issues are all Protestants. The best Bible scholars of the last 200 years have all been Protestants. Anyway, to the atheist, what's the question?
If you're talking to a younger or let's say newer atheist, and they're going for the same sort of like, I can prove like God's not real. I'm about to pull out my talking points. What do you want them to know before they enter that conversation with a Christian?
Yeah, repent and believe the gospel.
Ash Wednesday moment.
Yeah, I guess just beginning to deal with it, like there are a lot of Christians in history who are much smarter than you.
Yeah.
I've got to deal with the same thing. There are Protestants, or there are Roman Catholics, or there are atheists in history who are much smarter than me. And so it's sort of just like dismissing it as like utter foolishness. I often feel like atheists will talk about Christianity like it's just so stupid. Like only a sheep would believe that. What I respect about you is that you're like, you'll at least interpret it through the language of it's people's search for beauty and for meaning and for the unknown. And I'm like, cool. I mean, I think it's more than that, but I respect that you honor it still. Whereas most atheists, I feel, are just like, only an idiot would believe that. Your God commands genocide. How can you worship such an evil, terrible, wicked, awful God? I hate your God. And I'm like, whoa, dude. Like, we got to chill. Like, we got to tone it down a little bit. And just recognize that, like, smarter people than you have come to the opposite conclusion. Mm-hmm. And so, like, how can I do my due diligence? And you can remain an atheist, but don't go pretending like all Christians are stupid, or that every smart person ever has thought the way that you think, or that, you've mastered arguments against Christianity, because it's a really, really, really long conversation. It's an ancient conversation, and surely you've not engaged with all of it. So I'm not saying you can't. I mean, my preference would be that you would receive salvation and walk in full life with Christ.
Salvific emotivist.
Because he loves you so much and you're so important to him, and he wants to live with you forever. And he wants you to be a son or daughter. It's true. And he can heal that wound in your heart. I'm dead. Anyway, that's what I prefer. But if you're going to remain an atheist, the honesty that I expect of myself, I also expect from you. Like, let's not pretend like we're the smartest people in the room, or we're the smartest people in the past 2,000 years of the conversation, and find the truth the right way. Yeah.
I found in these conversations, we all bring our lives to the table. That whatever side and whichever angle you look at these important issues, there's so much lived experience and happy memories and bad memories and mission trips and terrible experiences that, like, we're bringing our lives to these conversations. And I think either side, to dismiss the other side as purely intellectual and their own is purely intellectual is not what happens. So at least respect that somebody's bringing their life to a conversation.
100%.
And to honor that.
We're all bringing our experiences, our emotions, our backgrounds, our family histories. We're bringing all of that with us and pretending like we're not. Yeah. And it just doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. Like, we're all bringing so much baggage and so much weight. And I think it's just the case, like, you know what? I can be honest with myself. I come from a difficult family background. I had an amazing experience in the church as a kid. Amazing experience. It was a redeeming experience because there was so much pain in my home that the experiences I had at church were redemptive. They were healing. They were really, really important to me. So I guess, like, I can be honest and not feel offended by the fact that might predispose me to being a theist and being a Christian, because I had such amazing experiences with Christians. Maybe. At the end of the day, I have to recognize I'm bringing that to the table. So in my best attempts to be objective and to never muddy things with my experiences, to always only be thinking up here, it's just like, we're not those kinds of creatures that we like to pretend that we are. We're not just people who are just thinking. We're feeling, and we're being formed by the things that we consume and the things that happen to us. you know, like I find this all the time. Like an atheist will give an argument for atheism, and then you'll find like something that they say they're on the internet saying like there's no hate like Christian love. I'm like, evidently you really don't like Christians. Do you think that might be shaping the way that you feel?
Surprise.
Yeah. Do you think that might be shaping the way that you feel about some argument for or against God? Do you think that might predispose you to
Smidgen.
justify, like being satisfied with an argument even though it doesn't have enough power or explanatory force? Like you might just sort of settle. Like Christians do that all the time. Christians like take the first Christian answer and they go, okay, yep, I believe that, because it made the sort of the anxiety that the counter argument raised in me go away.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, I just want to justify the way that I feel. Right? So it's like, I feel good about the church. So when someone makes me question that, I just want to hear the first thing that will make that go away. Atheists do the same crap. We do this. We all do the same intellectual dishonesty. And so we have to constantly be taking inventory of why do I think the things that I think? How did I arrive here? What has shaped me to come to this place? Now, that doesn't mean that you can never be right about something. Like, I don't think I'm so shaped by my experiences that I have incorrectly arrived at the conclusion of Christianity. I believe I really ought to be a Christian, that it really is true. You can still think that.
Yeah.
But I don't get to pretend like I've only arrived there because I read just the right books. And so if you are an atheist, like, man, have the honesty to be like, oh, well, the church doesn't like my lifestyle. Whether you like it or not, that's going to shape the way that you think about certain arguments. Or, I had a negative experience in the church. Whether you like it or not, that shapes the way you think about religion. And you just have to be honest about that. Because at some point, that's going to need to be the thing that we talk about. We can talk about the arguments, the philosophical arguments, the science, and all that. We can talk about all that stuff for now. But eventually the conversation boils down to, how do you feel about the church? Like, how do you feel about religion? How do you feel about yourself? Because you're not just a thinking thing. You're not just a thinking animal. You're a feeler. You know, part of what it means to be human, we don't just think hard. We're much better feelers than we are thinkers. Our feelings are less reliable, probably, but probably spend most of the time doing feeling rather than thinking. Mm-hmm. That's an important part of why do you land where you land. I feel great things about the church. I feel great things about Christianity and the Bible. I feel it made the Bible's changed my life. I feel incredible things about the Bible. So when I'm studying on like this person argues that the Torah is unreliable because it was written by a group of scribes and not Moses. Like I'm like predisposed to be like, show me why it's Moses. It's got to be Moses. Like I need to see this, and because I feel such great things about the Bible, and I have to try not to let that get in the way, but recognize that it's there.
Yeah.
So we can all be honest what we're bringing to the table. It leads to much more thoughtful, engaging conversation, and it would help us get to the truth.
Mm-hmm. It's been a blast having you on. I'm excited for, I don't know if this will go live before our conversation on Ellen Fisher, some almost 3 hours hitting a number of the big topics in the conversation, getting to talk here today. I think that you possess remarkable honesty in these conversations. You're a great communicator with meeting people with where they're at, and be able to explain those things in coherent ways and to approach these conversations with an air of caring about people over a sort of dunk are remarkable things that I've seen in you. So it's been a blast having you on.
Thanks.
I'm excited for whatever that conversation turns into. Who knows how the internet will react, but we are here in hour or two because of LA traffic after after that came live. So who knows? Maybe it'll be some crazy thing or it'll be a benign thing on the internet, but
everyone's going to think everyone's going to say he dunked on me. He'd bodied me talking about, just a warning to my Christian bros, when we were talking about philosophy and science.
Yeah, I'm excited for that conversation to come out. Glad to have you here. I think you're going to give yourself more credit on how that all went down. I think it'll be a blast.
It was great. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So more of this in the future.
Indeed.
Thanks
for being on.
Bye, everybody.